Right, let's get this show back on the road. So, in terms of designing kaiju, I feel like I've only just scratched the surface so far. I mean, yeah, I've done loads of work and loads of sketches and, you know, many creature designs, but so far it's only really Agoshira that's got far enough. He's probably the first canon kaiju in this world, but we need more. Initially I was aiming for like 70-ish, so I need to get busy. I feel sorry for Todd. I think of all the kaiju I've drawn so far, he's definitely up there with the ones that show the most potential. There's something endearing about him, but I do think I can take him further. I think it'd be good to get back to the drawing board, start to flesh him out a bit, so to speak. Not that he needs much fleshing out, you know, he's already pretty big, but you know what I mean. Anyway, I figure if I'm going to do this properly, I need to do some more sketching, potentially continue to improve the 3D model, but definitely what I need is to develop some lore, a bit of a backstory, and a reason for Todd. And that includes the name Todd as well. You know, he's been affectionately known by viewers of the channel as Todd, but now there needs to be an actual reason for that. So we'll get to that too. The inspiration for Todd originally came when I stumbled across images of horned frogs and toads. Frogs and toads are arguably my favourite animals. It's not like I have a top 10 of animals or anything like that, but when you do have a 7-year-old, you know, you get used to answering questions like, what's your favourite animal? And so, you know, I was forced to deliberate a little deeper on that than I ever had done before. So yeah, frogs and toads probably share the #1 spot of my favourite animal. Orangutan's #2, if you're interested. But I'm going off topic here. Look, I do script these videos to keep them, you know, concise, but sometimes it's good to have a little ad-libbing to keep it feeling real and not too much like it's just being read. As long as I don't ramble on and then realise I'm going off on what I'm talking about things that don't really matter. There are various types of horned, long-nosed type frogs and toads and lizards and stuff. Some of them are ridiculous, like how do these guys even exist? A lot of them tend to have similar characteristics as well. They're sort of, their shape language, if you like, is kind of, you know, round shapes with like angles coming off that and a wide mouth, and obviously they have these distinctive horned brows, and they usually have these pointy noses too. They're not actually real horns, by the way. They are these specialised fleshy flaps of skin or modified kind of body scales. Some types of like ornate or long-nosed frogs can actually sort of close their horn flaps. Horn flaps, there's a phrase I didn't think I'd use today. Yeah, they can close their horn flaps like giant eyelids. You also see similar things on horned lizards, which are technically reptiles, but they do look a bit toad-like. I think they're sometimes called horned toads, even though they are lizards. So yeah, I've drawn some inspiration from those too. They have some really unique features. The greater horned lizard is known for, and get this is totally real, look away now if you're squeamish, for shooting blood out of its eye sockets. I mean, if you made that up, someone would say, oh, I'm not sure about that, that's a bit much, seems a bit unrealistic. And it does, doesn't it? But then you'd have to tell them, yeah, it does sound a bit unrealistic, but also their blood is toxic because they have a diet of venomous ants. This blood firing from the eyes is called auto-hemorrhaging. My God. And they do it by restricting the blood flow out of their head, which in turn increases the blood pressure in the head, causing tiny blood vessels to burst around the eyes and fire this toxic blood out. And you probably think that as far as defense mechanisms go, that's enough, right? That'll do. But no, turns out that's not enough for the horned lizard. They have another defense mechanism. They can inflate themselves. Apparently they can inflate themselves to twice their normal size. This makes them look more intimidating to potential predators, but crucially it also stops those predators from being able to swallow them. I haven't been able to find a video of them getting inflated. It more sort of looks like they just sort of stand on their side and, you know, make themselves look a bit bigger. But yeah, apparently they can inflate themselves to twice the size. Now, admittedly, Todd is a 300-meter tall kaiju. There's not much that's going to swallow Todd. But still, this idea of a giant relative of these horny toads and lizards, which can... horny? But still, the idea of a giant relative of these horned toads and lizards, which can inflate itself to double its size and squirt perhaps lava blood or something from its eyes, that's definitely something. If the blood squirting eye stuff didn't already upset you, frogs and toads also have these weird sort of mucus glands that secrete a sort of serum that lubricates their bodies, helping them to thermoregulate and, keep slimy.
Is it true that postage stamp glue is made of...
Correct! Toad mucus!
Todd secretes a sort of pyromucus. I'm sorry. A combustible resin-like ooze that ignites when exposed to air, creating localized bursts of flame or fire trails, and it sort of covers his body like oil and essentially makes him always on fire. Have you ever seen those videos of the plasma plumes from the sun close up? I imagine it's kind of like that. Todd is kind of lazy. Maybe lazy is too harsh, it's more that he's meditative, passive, he never walks, but he does leap. Real frogs are spring-loaded. They can jump 10 to 20 times their body length, which is massive, really. And if you calculate that in terms of Todd, if we're thinking that he's roughly sort of 300 meters in height, and that's when he's sort of sedentary and sitting, imagine that he can compress and amass this immense thermal energy, we then use that to launch himself like a volcanic eruption, maybe using explosive blasts of gas vented from his body to amplify the jump. If you think of that, 10 to 20 times his height would mean he can jump around 6 kilometers in one burst. I'd imagine it even being more than that, because 300 meters is just his height without his legs unfurled. So maybe it's more like 6 to 10 kilometers as a conservative estimate. So I've been adapting my illustration of Todd to incorporate and take into account some of this. I really like that some of these horned frogs also have these pointy noses too, which almost create this elegant three-pronged triangle of protrusions on their head, which is very much like a crown. That sedentary, passive, seated position combined with Todd's scale and kind of commanding presence sort of ties in with these themes of royalty, and I sort of like the idea that he's almost like a kaiju monarch, king of the kaiju, if you like, which sort of sounds like it should be an old Neo Geo game or something. So I leaned into those three prongs a little bit more. In fact, I could probably exaggerate them even further, but it really helps in terms of his silhouette too, which you'll see in a bit. It actually plays quite a big part of the lore of Todd as well. Todd came out of nowhere. He was first spotted in the Atacama Desert in Chile, a giant barren area of salt flats and ridges which covers over 105,000 square kilometers. When a barren salt flat began to smoulder, the ground collapsed into a lava tube, and the toad of Atacama climbed out, shedding cracked salt crystals from its back like armour. Nobody saw it climb out of the hole. For locals and the local Cajun team, every ridge was etched into memory, every fold of the mountains was familiar. So when a new three-pronged mountain range appeared overnight, shimmering as if engulfed in heat, it provoked a clamour of activity, and a survey team was sent out to investigate. I'll talk about this in more detail in a future video, but essentially Todd was discovered, documented and named. Early Cajun survey teams often used placeholder nicknames before formal classification, so when someone jotted down Toad on a field log, the thermal printer glitched and it came out as looking like it said Todd, and the name stuck, even in official records. So to summarise, Todd is a languid, volcanic god beast, deceptively sedentary but capable of sudden, catastrophic bursts of destruction, explosive eruption jumps of up to 10 kilometers in distance. He's always on fire, He can inflate to twice his size and jet pressurized molten blood from his eyes. Beast. Okay, so here's the bit where I get deep in my own head and start second guessing everything. It always happens, but yeah, here we go again. I like Todd. I like Agashira. I like the card designs I did for Agashira. You know, the field notes style. But in hindsight, I look at it now and I think yes, it has its own merit, but it's just not the one. Which makes it difficult for me to tie these kaiju designs up with a nice bow and, you know, tick them off the list. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's a problem with Agashira. I think Agashira is designed and done as far as I'm concerned. But in terms of a single representative image of him that can be used as the art, well, I don't think I have that. And the same for Todd, so I need a kind of, like a final art style, I think. And it's not the kind of thing that can be solved easily, so, you know, I don't want to beat myself up too much about it, but you know, I can't say that I have the solution at this point. I'm tempted to go with the 3D route, but whenever I add colour and texture, it starts to feel a little amateur, which is, you know, understandable because I am an amateur 3D artist. But so much of good 3D work is in the intricacies of the render. So, I don't know, I may have to learn more, dive into Blender or something to get that extra added layer of polish. I could also potentially trace and vectorize the 3D renders and make something like I did with Todd version 1, something like this. So, I don't know, it's a bit of a sticking point at the moment. I really need that way to visualize the final kaiju designs, because at the moment I'm like, design, what now? I need to be design, bang, finished piece that sums the character up, if that makes sense. Maybe this has been my enduring problem all along. I really need to get to the bottom of it, I think. So, you know, that obviously needs more investigation and a bit of a deep dive, and, you know, it's the kind of thing I'll probably do a video on soon, and hopefully it'll have some answers and not just be a rant. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment below and like the video while you're at it, and subscribe and hit the bell and, you know, all that stuff. And for more in-depth conversation, please do go over to the Patreon and subscribe there. I'm hoping it's going to be a good place to chat and discuss this exact type of thing. You know, maybe it's staring me in the face and I just can't see it, and I just need one of you to help me out and tell me what you think. Also, you'll get access to the world so far in PDF form, where you can read the lore and see some high-res imagery, and, you know, that document is going to be updated with new stuff each month. It's a work in progress, evolving document, and it's less than a coffee a month, and you'd be supporting me and the project directly, helping me to keep it going and to keep it regularly updated as well. And also, I've just uploaded some phone wallpapers of Todd and Agoshira as well for those who are subscribed, so, that's reason enough in itself, isn't it? Next time, I've been thinking quite a bit about this. Next time, I'm thinking of exploring a yokai spirit kaiju using this guy as a reference. There's something about that mask idea. I want to kind of stick a mask on a creature. So, if you like masks being stuck on creatures, get subscribed, hit the bell if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon. Take care.